Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today, coming up on the week of WWE's Royal Rumble. It's going to be happening this year, January 27th. It's going to be coming to you from St. Petersburg, Florida. Honestly, the early Royal Rumbles that I remember were held down there in Orlando. You would always have like Jesse Ventura coming to you. It was him wearing the Mickey Mouse sweatshirt. It's kind of like the most perfect place to have a Royal Rumble because of honestly, like almost every pay-per-view now is like a must-see, must-travel event to head out and go out there. And Florida right now seems like the one place in the country that's like getting the most perfect weather, able to hold this. I can remember back to the Royal Rumble that Roman Reigns won. I think that was probably like 2013. It was held in Pittsburgh. Of course, that's the big snowstorm that hit during the Royal Rumble, and then it ended up being so bad that they could not travel, and they ended up having to cancel Monday Night Raw the next night, where I think they actually just showed the Royal Rumble on TV, and they had some interviews of like Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns setting up what would then be WrestleMania 31. This year's Royal Rumble was already like an event that was already on a lot of people's calendars. But I think that really changed when CM Punk came back to WWE at Survivor Series, the War Games pay-per-view. It's kind of like what we never thought would ever happen. I mean, we had him walk out of the company 10 years ago. We had him pop up in AEW. When that kind of like didn't work out and he was released, it was kind of like, if they didn't want him, why is WWE going to want him? But they brought him in. He's wrestled on house shows, I believe, in New York City, in Los Angeles. If he's been on other ones, honestly, I just don't know about him. But they've held him from wrestling off television for a reason. Is that because when he comes out, we know that we want to see if he's still got it. I mean, it's kind of funny because we saw him wrestle in AEW. We know that he can still do it. But honestly, he kind of has that stigma on him right now. It's almost like every time Hogan gets into the ring, it's wondering how much it's going to take to fix him up. It was almost after every match Punk had on a pay-per-view, he got hurt. And it was kind of like, when are we going to be able to actually see him come back and wrestle again? I'm not going to consider Punk being old. He's just at a point in his career that he can't do it each and every night. He can't wrestle on Raw. He can't wrestle on the house shows and then, be available for pay-per-views because he's going to want to give a certain percentage to us. And if he's not able to give it, it's not really worth it for the people that tune in for these big shows along the way, especially for the people who buy tickets to go to the house shows thinking that he's going to be there and, because he tweaked an ankle or a knee or something like that, he's not going to be able to go. I think I don't love CM Punk, but I do believe that he wants to be there for the fans, the people that like him, the people that support him. Let's face it. I mean, this guy doesn't need to be here. I think he can live alone off of his Pro Wrestling Tees orders alone. But, it's in his blood to want to give it to him. The biggest story going into the Royal Rumble this year had to have been Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes won the Rumble last year. He came out number 30. It wasn't really a surprise. In a lot of Rumble fashions, you can kind of point at one guy and be like, this is the guy that's going to win it. I think, honestly, when Del Rio won, it was very obvious. When Orton won, it was obvious. Drew McIntyre, Shinsuke Nakamura, they were all pretty obvious picks that, they were there for a reason. They were the guy that was sort of picked to be the WrestleMania main eventer. Cody won last year, went to WrestleMania. We all thought it was going to happen. And it didn't happen. Basically, Cody lost. Roman got the win. Some people say it's because they thought Roman wanted to hold the belt for 1,000 days. Some people thought that, they just didn't want to give the belt to Cody because his last name is Rhodes. I'm not really sure what happened. I thought it was a slam dunk. He was the face of the company. He still is the face of the company. He's the guy that's out there shaking hands and kissing babies every single time they go into a new town. He's the one doing the media tours. He's signing the pictures. He's signing the belts. He's doing everything right. He's walking out. He's dressing the part when he comes out for his promos. He's the guy that people want to see. I don't know. I didn't go to WrestleMania last year. I still haven't watched WrestleMania from last year. I don't know if it's like a Shawn Michaels thing when, he was building up the Royal Rumble 2010, saying that he had to have a match against Undertaker because he was the guy who could defeat the streak and he made one little mistake. And if he can have that same match and not make that mistake, he knows that he can beat Undertaker. I don't know if it's something like that where he just knows that, he's just got to take out Sikoa on the outside or something like that before he goes to the Crossroads. It could be anything like that. But to me, Cody seemed the most obvious guy to win the Rumble this year. To me, always, you got to throw in, Seth Rollins, even though he is the World Heavyweight Champion, I guess is what they call that belt. Even though he is that, he's more than likely going to wrestle a singles match. Could he also be in the Rumble? I guess so. I mean, there's no real rules. There used to be, like, if you were in a singles match or a tag match, you weren't going to be in the Royal Rumble match. And somewhere along that change where people that would compete for a title, they would still be in the Rumble because they needed to have the big names in there. He could be in there. CM Punk, since he came, he's a big name. Why would they bring him in if they didn't want him to be a guy who he's very, very, very vocal about the fact that he wants to main event a WrestleMania. It's one of the main reasons why he walked out around WrestleMania 30 because he thought he had been the WWE champion for so long. He wasn't, really looked at as the main guy in the company, even though he was champion, because they were focusing on John Cena, even though he didn't have the title. His matches weren't closing out pay-per-views. It was kind of like it was always a storyline that wasn't as important as something else that was going on. Why would they bring him back? Other than the buzz of just bringing him back, you still got to put him on each and every show, find a storyline for him somewhere to be like that. Drew McIntyre, he's a guy that's got a lot of talk around him. People say that, his contract is coming up. He hasn't re-signed. Is he jumping ship? Is he going to AEW? He's a past Royal Rumble winner. You got to put him in there with Cody Rhodes. You got to put him in there with Nakamura. People that have won the Rumble in the past, you can't look at him as a guy that, like, he's not like a main guy in the company anymore. He supported WWE through one of its weirdest times they've ever had. Basically, through the time of the pandemic, if you go back and you remember the times of the Thunderdome, wrestling in front of nobody. He won the Rumble. He went to WrestleMania. He beat fucking Brock Lesnar. Even if it was held at the Performance Center and it looked like it was just held in some warehouse with nobody around it, it still happened. You can't take it away from him. He's basically out there. The whole thing on Monday Night Raw is that Drew McIntyre, he wants to finish his story. The one part of his promo that I did not understand is that he was being like bro-y with Cody Rhodes. They were going back and forth. Basically, Drew was saying that he wants to go and he wants to finish his story. He feels that he has to win the Royal Rumble to be the one who beats Roman Reigns. He was saying, like, hey, Cody, you will finish your story. That is something that's coming up. But first, I have to finish mine. Sometimes I break down things too much that I hear. And to me, that means I'm going to beat Roman Reigns, and then you're going to beat me to finish your story. Honestly, it didn't make a lot of sense to me then. It still doesn't make a lot of sense to me now. I don't know. I'm really, really looking forward to this. When it comes to surprises, I think that with Vince McMahon no longer being in the picture of the Royal Rumble, I think that honestly, almost anything is up in the air when it comes to this. I'll tell you the truth. It's held in his backyard. I know that people don't love him. I've been a fan of this guy for 40 years, I guess you can say. Like, I don't know when I became a wrestling fan, but the day I became a wrestling fan, Hulk Hogan was in the picture. How do you run a Royal Rumble in his town and not have him be even a little part of it? There has to be a day when we close the door on Hogan wrestling. Why can't Hogan come out for the Royal Rumble actually thinking that he's going to win it? DDP years ago talked about the fact of him, being on Independence. He knows that he can't wrestle anymore, but he strictly believes that when people go to the shows, what people remember more than anything else is the entrance. They remember the promo, and they remember the finisher. Why can't Hogan, come down to the ring, have that big, explosion, doing the pose down to hear, like, I am a real American, one more time. It's not the last time we're ever going to see him. Hogan will show up on Raw 6000. Hogan will show up for, the NWO Reunion 13. He'll do this, he'll do that. He won't wrestle. But, why can't Hogan get in the ring? I mean, the Mattel is, putting the huge push behind him right now and in the upcoming year. We've got figure after figure. Target just came out with a 40th anniversary of Hulkamania 3-pack. You can get the Hogan winning the championship. You can get the Hogan in the NWO. You can get the, I'm Back 2002 Hulk Still Rules. That's still out there. I want to see him come out, tear the shirt, go after, just go after one guy, and then they can find a way to get him out of that ring as easy as you can. If you go back and you watch, WrestleMania, when they did the gimmick battle royal, Iron Sheik won by eliminating Sergeant Slaughter. I think because of the fact they didn't know how to throw Sheik out. But I mean, if there's got to be one easy way where, even if it's Hulk getting outside of the ring and somebody just bumping the ropes and he steps down, he doesn't have to Gail Kim himself out of there. There's got to be a way. Honestly, in my opinion, I love the Hulkster. I want to see it one more time. But I think honestly at this time, there's a lot of question marks about what's going on out there. The mysterious, door where guys can pass through. If Mickie James can be booked for a Royal Rumble when she is the current Impact champion, I think that TNA is a door that they're definitely, trying to get up off the ground one more time. I think that honestly, they are somebody you can point to and be like, maybe they would let somebody go, like a Brian Myers. I don't know if Nick Nemeth would be there because he's not exclusive to them. I don't think they would want to loan him out when he's with New Japan and other things. But he is kind of the hot guy on the market right now. It would be fun, man. It would be really, really fun. I know that this is going to be a damn good match. I'm pumped for it. I honestly can tell you that with football being on that day, the Niners play on Saturday. No, that's this weekend. This is the next weekend, which would be NFC Championship games. Well, how about this? The Niners are going to beat the Packers on Saturday. Write that down. So this is going to be NFC Championships. I'll tell you the truth. I'm probably not going to be watching this live. But before I go to bed, I'm going to be watching this, and I'm going to be pumped. It's going to be good times. I don't know if the AFC or the NFC is going to play their game on... how do they do it? Are they both going to play on Sunday, or do they have one game Saturday, one game Sunday? It's been a while. So it only comes up once a year. So however it goes down, I don't think I'm going to be watching it live. I was trying to kayfabe this the most I could. My mom's going to be in town. She's going to be at my house Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I'm not going to be able to watch this until she goes to bed. So we'll have to see. I'm pumped for this match. I want to know what's going down. If you can remember, a few months back, I almost bought tickets to go to WrestleMania last year. So we'll have to... Oh, no, I'm sorry. I almost bought... Well, I guess last year, I almost bought tickets to go to WrestleMania this year. And then I found out that our tickets had already gone on sale. I kind of planned my flight. I kind of planned my hotel. And then when I was looking at, like, secondary seats on, like, sites like StubHub and those, I kind of got cold feet. I kind of thought the tickets were a little bit too expensive just for that, but I really wanted to go to WrestleCon. I got to go to WrestleMania again in my lifetime sometime. I don't know when, I don't know where, I don't know how. I got a big trip coming up in the summer to fall this year, so we're looking forward to that. But Royal Rumble, I want to see Cody do it. Cody is my winner. My pick for winning the Royal Rumble is Cody Rhodes. What is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. We are days away from the 2024 WWE Royal Rumble. As we talk right now, Okada seems to be the biggest free agent that there is in the world of wrestling right now today. It was announced yesterday that the rumors were true, that Okada was leaving New Japan Pro Wrestling. The New Japan Global site tweeted it out that they'd come to the agreement that he was leaving. The only reason that's really out there for, like, I guess you can say close to like the John Cena of New Japan to be leaving the company has been made public by Brian Alvarez on his radio show, where he basically said that Okada for years has been underpaid. This has been one of the guys that has gone to Wrestle Reunion, wrestled in one of the biggest matches for them each and every year, supporting this company. I know that New Japan will always have a next guy up kind of attitude, but Okada has been one of the guys that they've wanted to keep around for a long time. I can remember Okada wrestling for TNA. New Japan had sent him over, I think it was before 2010. It was around the same time that the Young Bucks were actually in TNA at the same time. It might have been around the time of like the Hogan and Bischoff era. Trying to get him more exposure for where U.S. fans would come accustomed to him. But I remember stories around like 2015, 2016, where he was actually coming over to the States and he was flirting with WWE. Triple H has always had Okada as like one of the guys like circled, like he's the next guy up, the next guy that they got to get into the company. And tried to get him in for NXT. I think that they've tried to get him in for going right to the main roster things, and it's never really worked out because he's wanted to stay home. But he's ready to spread his wings. He probably knows that he's at a place in his career where it's probably going to be one of his biggest chances to jump before it's too late. And he can't actually do what he's done. I think everybody knows that Okada, they've had the burst where everybody had to go out and get New Japan to watch Wrestle Kingdom. I know I was caught up in it from like 2015 to like roughly around 2018. This year, I think I had it in the back of my mind, but I didn't even hear the talk of like people planning like an all night, kind of like stay up and watch New Japan kind of a deal. I remember having to explain it to like my kids, explain it to my girlfriend at the time of like why I wanted to watch wrestling from Japan that didn't even come on until 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was going to be probably making noise in the living room until the time it was for her to go to work. It's kind of a weird thing. Hey, it's only going to happen this one time, but it's got to happen. But as of right now, it's not really known which way he's going. I know that he already has a TNA booking that he's going to be working for them. It is kind of like early for him to immediately jump and go right to WWE's Royal Rumble, making it an entrance at this event. But it honestly is probably one of the biggest chances for him to do it. I remember that WWE, they made the chance for Samoa Joe to kind of jump from NXT to the main roster in that like kind of time period between the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. And he really got lost in his jump to the main roster where he was left off of WrestleMania, and it kind of made him look like he wasn't the star that he was. And it's kind of like one of those things where, when people get accustomed to like being a star in NXT and then they make the jump to the main roster where, it's like they're trying to run on ice and they're like kind of like, it's like slippery. They can't get the jump to really be there. Either that or sometimes people come right onto the main roster and they make a big splash, and then all of a sudden when that storyline dries up, they have nowhere to go to. They fall back, they get lost into the shuffle. It's almost the same thing when guys go into AEW. They make their debut and they sort of get lost there. I know that because of the relationship with the Young Bucks, they're going to make a push to really get him into AEW. Tony Khan has released a statement on Twitter basically saying that he thinks that they are in the forefront of this race of bringing Okada to AEW. They've already brought in a major star in Will Ospreay this year. I know that he's still finishing up his dates. He hasn't really made a splash on the AEW show yet to really help them out. I don't know why they made such a big deal out of his signing months ago, to the point where we haven't seen anything. But I think maybe they were trying to play a little bit of catch up with the whole CM Punk announcement, and then it's kind of like the bad press with him leaving the company, that they had to this is still a place that people want to go to, kind of thing. It's funny when you look back on how Okada became friends with the Young Bucks. It was kind of like when Okada came over and he was in TNA, he was just kind of like pushed aside with a lot of those those wrestlers that were in like the X division kind of thing, and he didn't really have a lot of acquaintances. He didn't really have a lot of friends. And TNA was basically just gonna beat him up on the show. He was just going to be a fall guy. They wanted him to do a blade job. At that point in his career, I think that he was scared to do it. Maybe he didn't know how to do it. And I think he was smart enough to know that it didn't really make sense why he was doing it. And, he went to the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks didn't really have a lot of pull in the company, but they actually went to bat for him and made sure that it didn't happen. To the point that when, the Young Bucks found their way out of TNA because it was actually costing them money to go to work for them, they thought that going to TNA was going to build exposure in them to move up the card and be bigger names. They ended up splitting them up and trying them as singles wrestlers, which did not work at all. And there was no real connection to where they were going to get it back together. Once Okada went back to New Japan and he's kind of established himself as being a star, he actually called the Young Bucks to come to Japan. When they came over to Japan, that's when they joined the Bullet Club, and that's when they really got that traction as being, some of the main names that there are in the business. They made the acquaintances like in Kenny Omega, in Cody Rhodes, and that's what's kind of led to, Tony Khan and building the whole AEW brand. Where would we really be if that weird friendship in TNA back then could have happened. WWE, they're a major company. They're trying to make a splash. The TKO deal, I think it's working for them, but when it really comes to like the stock price, since the day of it's kind of like bringing WWE on board, I think they're down like 20%. they got to find a way to make a splash and bring this back together. Normally, every time there's like a TV deal, every single time that they re-up on their network deal, definitely when the WrestleMania money starts rolling up, the WWE stock used to decline at that time of the year. Definitely, they're going to want to get back to their stockholders and tell them that good shit's going on. Bringing in a big name Okada, I don't think is going to roll in to the stock market deal. Where people start investing money and the stock price starts going up. But honestly, it couldn't hurt to add another name. Definitely, you look at Roman Reigns, I think he was under 15 matches wrestled last year. Definitely, he's trying to keep himself healthy to the point where Hollywood calls, he can go make a movie. I know that he made the Hobbs and Shaw thing, but I haven't. That seems like forever ago. So I mean, is he just trying to stay healthy? Is he just trying to stay off the road? The guy's not Andre the Giant. He's Roman fucking Reigns. He's a star, but your champion needs to fucking wrestle. That's what it really comes down to in my mind. You got to put somebody in that spot that is able to be there. A Japanese star, definitely when Nakamura came over, which feels like forever ago. I'm guessing off the top of my head right now, 6 years ago. He's a guy that hasn't touched the championship. He won the Royal Rumble. He had a championship match against AJ Styles. In a weird way, that match ended in disqualification. It definitely wasn't the match that we thought we were going to get. That was a rematch from the Wrestle Kingdom match. It wasn't even close. So putting the belt on a Japanese star is kind of weird. We got to know where his English speaking skills are. It's not like they're really going to give him a manager to interpret for him. We don't need somebody like the Great Khali and was it Daivari? I think Daivari was this guy. I don't really remember that they did his promos for him. So that's kind of a question mark on what they're going to do. But I mean, we all remember when AJ Styles came out. We knew it was going to happen. It was one of the worst secrets that the world was in the world of wrestling as we got closer to the Royal Rumble. But I think if Okada came out for the Royal Rumble, I think it would blow the doors off that place. So I'm looking forward to it. Not sure if it's going to happen, but you're watching this video, so you think it's going to happen sometime too. Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Rich coming to you here today. I'm sitting here on the couch, making up videos for the WWE's Royal Rumble that's going to be coming up. Right now, we're in a series of videos where we're basically just talking about people that we think will be surprise entrants. I think I've honestly made this video for 3 years now. I think right now it is time for WWE to either figure out what's going on with this guy or let him go. I know that they've invested a lot in him. They signed him right after the Olympics in 2021, but because of COVID, pushing back the 2020 Olympics, we're already in an Olympic year right now. Gable Stevenson either needs to figure out if he's going to be coming to WWE, if he's going to be, able to do something on the main roster, or if it's just not something that he can commit. I don't think it's anything against him being a wrestler for WWE, but, there was a lot of talk of him jumping into UFC training, if the money was right after he won the Olympic gold medal. It was kind of like which one of these guys which company was going to be the one that brought him in. I think that, we've seen a lot of UFC competitors come from the world of Olympic wrestling, but that's a different kind of training that he's going to have to go under to be getting into it. We've seen, a lot of people go on to have a lot of success in UFC. But I think the money was right, and he had a love for WWE that he signed to come here. He was doing online training while still competing in wrestling while going to Minnesota. I think that you could bring Gable Stevenson in. He doesn't need to be a guy that comes in and becomes a winner right off the bat, but we've seen him actually wrestle a dark match. I believe it was on a SmackDown, and he's on the list to be traveling to SmackDown tapings each and every week, according to PW Insider, which was a report that just recently came out. So I guess there's talks of him just completely skipping the NXT experience. I think that they think he's a name that can go right to the main roster, which honestly might be a little bit of a mistake, honestly, in my opinion. We saw him show up. He had a thing with Bobby Lashley behind the announcer's table on Monday Night Raw a few years ago. He was at I believe it was SummerSlam in Las Vegas, where he got into the ring, and didn't he have a WrestleMania moment where he came out and he just didn't seem like he was 100% ready. It was almost like just a fan jumped into the ring and was like, all right, let's do this. But maybe the guy was just honestly really, really excited. I think it would be cool to see him get a number to get into WWE. They could hype him up as an Olympian. They could say that it's basically his time to go onto the main roster. And from there, they can almost treat him like he was like a tough enough guy that needs to be shown the ropes. But if he gets the time, he gets the seasoning, he could be a star in there. The Royal Rumble could be treated as one way to make him a star right off of the bat. I'm not saying that he needs to have like a moment where he eliminates Brock Lesnar, but with the whole Minnesota connection, seeing him, Shelton Benjamin, seeing Brock Lesnar all in the ring all at the same time, they could build up a storyline. It doesn't have to be like Maven eliminating The Undertaker, but they could build up a storyline with why Brock Lesnar doesn't win the Rumble, Brock Lesnar doesn't have a championship match, but because he was eliminated at the Royal Rumble, he feels embarrassed. And maybe Gable Stevenson versus Brock Lesnar becomes a match people want to see at WrestleMania. I mean, that's an easy way that, could connect two dots. This is a guy that WWE, I think, already thought was going to be on the main roster. He already had his rookie card with Panini. He's already autographed cards that have been released in WWE's sets and packs. I think we might be a year, maybe even 2 years behind on Gable Stevenson. So we'll have to see what goes down with this. But I think that he could be a big name that becomes a star in WWE. But you got to be in WWE to be that star. Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Steve Breach coming to you here today. Had a small interruption on my morning of videos where basically I had to take my daughter to school. So we are back at it, this time in the car. I've got my buddy Scotty riding shotgun. He seems to be pretty excited right now. But this video is about Stone Cold Steve Austin and the chances of him making an appearance at the Royal Rumble 2024. It's been 2 years since Stone Cold Steve Austin showed up on the Kevin Owens show at WrestleMania 38 in Dallas, Texas. I think we all knew what was going to happen with him showing up, that it was going to lead to a fight. That fight ended up being Stone Cold Steve Austin's last match to give him like a big exclamation point on the end of his career. WrestleMania 19, when Stone Cold Steve Austin wrestled against The Rock. We didn't know that was going to be it. We had seen Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 14 have a match against Stone Cold Steve Austin where he so-called, passed the torch over, and that was his last match, for a long time. Actually, I think WrestleMania 19 would be his next WrestleMania, where he wrestled against Chris Jericho. So I guess that would have been a 5-year absence. So Stone Cold Steve Austin not popping up. Again, I don't think we ever really knew what was going to be there. At the time period, Vince McMahon was taking WWE public, so he couldn't really, say like, hey, The Rock is going off to make Hollywood movies. Stone Cold Steve Austin is going to retire, because he needed that stock price to be high, and for that stock price to be high, WWE had to have two of the biggest stars that it had in the history of its company, being able to be on the roster where people knew that they were going to show up from there and then on. Stone Cold Steve Austin, I think he has that big exclamation point on the end of his career. Storyline wise, I think it would be cool if Stone Cold Steve Austin showed up at the Royal Rumble. He came back after that long period. He's sort of like the Clint Eastwood of the WWE as of right now. I can't remember the last time Stone Cold Steve Austin made an appearance in WWE, but I know he's always, posting things on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Like recently, he's trying to do the Cold Pledge Challenge, trying to get his body right, because he always seems to be physically fit. No matter what point one is his career, if you looked at him, you thought that he could show up on Raw and just start raising some hell, and not only against the McMahons, against anybody that there is out there on the roster. I honestly thought WrestleMania 39, I thought they had an awesome main event with Cody Rhodes. It was a story that made sense, but I honestly thought after WrestleMania 38 that Austin having a match against Roman Reigns honestly would have made a lot of sense. Honestly, they have the Saudi Arabia shows, they're going to Perth, they're doing this, that, and the other. There's a lot of money in WWE as of right now. A lot of money for guys to come back and have one more, last match, one more last run. We saw them, do Cena versus Triple H. We saw Undertaker come back. Shawn Michaels even came back for one of those. So I was like, Stone Cold Steve Austin coming out for one hell of a bang on one of these shows that made a lot of money. But I honestly think that, if you have Austin just show up at the Rumble, hear that glass shatter, it's honestly going to be one of the biggest pops we've heard in WWE in a long, long time. Him just strutting down to the ring. Doesn't have to win the damn thing, but it just would have made sense that, he's always saying that he is the baddest motherfucker in WWE. For him to back it up being at the Rumble, one hell of a moment. Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. We're talking about WWE's Royal Rumble 2024. One of the big names that has not been added to the event. It doesn't matter if it's a surprise or if they just come out on Raw and tell us, hey, he's going to be there. Somebody that's always going to be on your bingo card for the Royal Rumble is going to be Brock Lesnar. WWE in 2023 took a huge step back with Brock. I don't know if that was a personal choice or maybe WWE is deciding to use him less because of his price tag, or if he's just, wanting to take a step back because of his age, or, there was even rumors of him, especially with the TKO branding with WWE, if he would try it one more time in UFC. Of course, the last time he was in UFC was UFC 200. Seems like years and years ago. He ended up winning the fight, but losing the drug test in the back. Didn't really set him back at all. That was probably like around the summer of 2016. He would, have a match against Randy Orton at SummerSlam. It seems like the way that they made people forget about it is he just sort of snapped after the match. Took out the referees, took out Shane, took out Orton, just basically delivering like UFC-style elbows to the head, which split Orton up the hard way, left him a bloody mess. And I don't even know where they went with that whole storyline. I know they didn't do like Shane versus Brock. It seemed like what they were doing at the time. But maybe it was just a storyline to make him go away. Or it seems like anytime they don't want to use him for a while, they just find a way to suspend him television-wise, and people just kind of forget about him. Brock, last year, wasn't in the title picture. He had the match at WrestleMania 39 against Omos. honestly a huge disappointment. It didn't make any sense to me to have that match if you weren't going to have Omos win. I don't even think we've seen the Giant Omos on Raw and or SmackDown since WrestleMania. I know that I see him on house show results and things like that, so he's still out there working, but I just don't think they know how to use them, if that makes sense. I really, I just don't get it. But, Brock had the run after WrestleMania. Of course, on the Monday Night Raw, he attacked Cody Rhodes after teaming with him in a match. Then we had the 3 matches. I believe it was Backlash, SummerSlam, and I don't think it was Great American Bash because I think NXT uses that, but they did the whole storyline that they used 1,000 times, where Brock broke somebody's arm. I remember when he put the Kimura on Shawn Michaels, and that's what snapped and made Triple H like, okay, I'll fight you. It's go time. You hurt my friend, but I mean, you could do Brock versus Orton. I know I just mentioned him a minute ago. Brock versus AJ, if you wanted to start using him. But I mean, I don't think he's going to win the Rumble. He's definitely not in that talk. But I think if you we're picking names, I think he honestly has to be in your top 5. And most people in their top 5 are going to take Punk. They're going to take Cody Rhodes. They'll probably throw Drew McIntyre because at least he has a storyline to go after it. Brock's got to be there, and did I say The Rock? The Rock's got to be there. So I mean, I don't know. I think if Brock was done, we would know, and I think we got to be leading up to that moment to where he gets his flowers for being the superstar that he was. I know there was a huge gap in the time that they used him from 2003 to 2000 and when was WrestleMania 28? 2012. But since then, I mean, the guy, even though he's not on every Raw and or SmackDown, I mean, he's on the big 4 pay-per-views of the year. And, we've seen him in Rumbles that he didn't win, and he still finds a way to have moments setting up matches for the future. And I think that most people will always remember his way of putting over Keith Lee. That I think would have helped Keith Lee huge if he would have stuck around and found a way to have more longevity in WWE. So I'm looking forward to seeing Brock at the Rumble. I think he's going to be there. I don't think he's going to win it. But hopefully, he can set up a big match for himself at WrestleMania. With Vince McMahon no longer being in the picture of the Royal Rumble, I think that honestly, almost anything is up in the air when it comes to this. I'll tell you the truth. It's held in his backyard. I know that people don't love him. I've been a fan of this guy for 40 years, I guess you can say. I don't know when I became a wrestling fan, but the day I became a wrestling fan, Hulk Hogan was in the picture. How do you run a Royal Rumble in his town and not have him be even a little part of it? There has to be a day when we close the door on Hogan wrestling. Why can't Hogan come out for the Royal Rumble actually thinking that he's going to win it? DDP years ago talked about the fact of him, being on Independence. He knows that he can't wrestle anymore, but he strictly believes that when people go to the shows, what people remember more than anything else is the entrance. They remember the promo, and they remember the finisher. Why can't Hogan, come down to the ring, have that big, explosion, doing the pose down to hear I am a real American, one more time. It's not the last time we're ever going to see him. Hogan will show up on Raw 6,000. Hogan will show up for, the NWO Reunion 13. He'll do this, he'll do that. He won't wrestle. But, like, why can't Hogan get in the ring? I mean, the Mattel is, putting the huge push behind him right now and in the upcoming year. We've got figure after figure. Target just came out with a 40th anniversary of Hulkamania 3-pack. You can get the Hogan winning the championship. You can get the Hogan in the NWO. You can get the, I'm Back 2002 Hulk Still Rules. That's still out there. I want to see him come out, tear the shirt, go after, just go after one guy, and then they can find a way to get him out of that ring as easy as you can. If you go back and you watch, WrestleMania, when they did the gimmick battle royal, Iron Sheik won by eliminating Sergeant Slaughter. I think because of the fact they didn't know how to throw Sheik out. But I mean, if there's got to be one easy way where even if it's Hulk like getting outside of the ring and somebody just bumping the ropes and he like steps down, he doesn't have to like Gail Kim himself out of there. There's got to be a way. Honestly, in my opinion, I love the Hulkster. I want to see it one more time. Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today, which will probably be the last video in my string of videos about the WWE's Royal Rumble 2024. I think it is the one main factor when trying to choose a victor and trying to plan a story to see where we're going on the road to WrestleMania 40. WrestleMania 40 is a big show. I mean, you can debate whether if like the anniversary shows have been some of the best ones in the history of WWE. To me, honestly, I think each and every year on the calendar, that there's going to be a WrestleMania. I don't think they sit down and they plan certain WrestleManias to be duds, certain WrestleManias to be, memory-making events that you're going to remember for the long history of time. But if you really think about like 9, 10, 11, 10's a better WrestleMania. If you think about like 19, 20, 21, definitely 20 is a WrestleMania that they built memories. He was kind of like a changing in the guard of the way they looked at guys. They started to push like the smaller wrestlers. You didn't really have to be the comic book hero size guys. And then, of course, you look at like 29, 30, 31. I mean, 30, you started with the beer bash. And then you definitely, changed the way you're doing with like Daniel Bryan, a guy that wasn't even planned to be, winning the championship on the booking sheet. They handed it to him. And, of course, I mean, that was a huge time period in his career. He wasn't able to defend the WWE Championship. Then, of course, he got better. He came back. He ended up at 31 winning the Intercontinental Championship. Wasn't able to defend that one. Ended up having to be retired for a long period of time before finally, coming back and having a match at WrestleMania where he teamed with Shane. And then, of course, would main event one more WrestleMania before leaving and going to AEW. But The Rock, I mean, this is a guy that has flirted with WWE and WrestleMania for years. I think he's messed up WrestleMania plans for people like me that make videos thinking about, what's going to happen at WrestleMania. So many times we thought The Rock was going to come back, and he's made appearances this year more than ever. I don't think it really just comes down to his schedule with College Game Day, but it seems like every single time he ends up being on the ESPN college football show, somebody brings him to Monday Night Raw or SmackDown. Of course, it was his appearance in Colorado where Pat McAfee ended up taking him to SmackDown that night. And of course, him being at was it the USC game? And then no, it wasn't even the USC, but it was at the Rose Bowl. And then, of course, then he made the trip to San Diego that night for Monday Night Raw. He was out there. He said that he missed wrestling fans. He did his, the Rock style promo saying that he loves everybody, thinks about him all the time, and then left us with one of the biggest cliffhangers that you could really have, is that he wanted to sit at the head of the table that night for dinner. A direct shot at Roman Reigns. Some people think that they're actually going to have The Rock wrestle in Perth at Elimination Chamber against Roman Reigns, and that'll be the setup, for WrestleMania 40. I'm sure Perth is going to have one hell of a show. I'm sure that it's going to be one hell of a payday. I really just don't see The Rock going to Perth. Honestly, that's just my opinion. If he's going to be there, they've already set the tone with Young Rock, the one of the best wrestling shows that's ever been on TV that wrestling fans did not watch. I loved that show. It was on NBC for 3 seasons. The first 2 seasons, they kind of did a mix of The Rock's career, where it talked about football, it talked about acting, it talked about wrestling, it talked about his father. But season 3 really just, they grabbed a hold of wrestling and they stuck to it. Maybe that's what killed it, but I think they decided that the wrestling characters is what brought people in. I just wish they could have done more to talk about it on Monday Night Raw, on SmackDown, to try and draw eyes to it. I did all that I could do. I tweeted about it, telling people, if you could get past the actors not looking like the wrestlers, but it was, the way they did it was funny. I mean, they had Shawn Michaels as a black guy, and I think it was Grayson Waller played Ric Flair. Not the best pick, but definitely a way better pick than whoever played Ric Flair in the Iron Claw. And I mean, it was straight comedy. It was fucking funny. I loved that show. But it's hard. I mean, Rock, the first time he was on Game Day, told us a story where basically the deal was signed, sealed, delivered. He was going to wrestle at WrestleMania 39. It was going to be him and Roman Reigns, just like they said on Young Rock. It was going to be a stadium full of millions of fans in order to have that match. And just something happened. I don't think it was something that happened like Cody Rhodes. They decided to have him win the Rumble and go to WrestleMania. I honestly think when it really comes down to it is a film called Red One. Red One is a film that The Rock made. It's going to be coming out. It's going to be a Christmas adventure movie. It's going to be starring The Rock and Chris Evans. The Rock got paid $50 million to make this movie. $50 million. The Rock's grandpa came from this business. The Rock's father came from this business. I don't think, honestly, either one of them ever made $50 million in their entire career. This guy got paid $50 million to make a movie, basically, that was shot in October of 2022 until February of 2023. That probably meant that he wasn't going to be able to be at the Rumble. He wasn't going to be able to make television leading up to WrestleMania. There was no real way to make it make sense. So I think that's why they went a different direction. I don't know what The Rock's plans are. I don't know if he's making a movie right now. If the actor strike was still going on, I think we might be at that. But they're pumping scripts out because they got to figure out how many movies and TV shows they missed out on in that months long strike, that they got to make it up. But I don't know. The wrestling side of me knows that The Rock being back is a big boom for the business. I'm not the biggest guy that says, hey, they created a story that says that Cody didn't win WrestleMania last year, so he has to win the Rumble again in order to have another match against Roman Reigns. I don't know if something was promised to him. I don't know what it was, but I'm not the biggest guy. If the wrestling business changes, that's just the way it goes. I mean, if they wanted Cody to be the champ that bad, they would have had Cody become the champ last year. I'm not the biggest guy that says, like, hey, you can't have The Rock be champion because he's not going to wrestle on Monday Night Raw. You can't, put the belt on The Rock because he's not going to make house shows. I think that the past 2-3 years with Roman Reigns being champ has shown you it doesn't really matter. They'll carry the show. The name WWE will sell it more than anything else. They'll still be able to sell championships. They'll still be able to sell T-shirts. It doesn't matter how much you see this guy. I think it's bigger if you have The Rock show up, sit down on the couch on the Tonight Show talking about the fact that he's got a movie coming out and he's the WWE champion. But it just matters if they're really going to do it or if it's The Rock just planting seeds, even if we're never going to get it. At this time period right now, I would love to see The Rock show up at the Rumble. I would love to see The Rock win the Rumble. I would love to see The Rock at WrestleMania. That is something to me that would make WrestleMania must-see. And that, you block out the day and say, I'm not doing anything besides for this. But right now, I'm not ready to do it. I think that it's going to have to be a surprise to me until the minute that the Rumble starts. I'm going to be picking Cody Rhodes to win the Rumble. Cody Rhodes to go to WrestleMania, and that Rock, which is an afterthought of like, hey, it would have been cool if he was here, but I don't think he's going to be there. Because as long as Hollywood's calling with $50 million paydays to make a movie called The Red One with Chris Evans, I think he's doing it every time. Peace out, guys. Thank y'all very much. Hey, what up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today, rolling out of the house to go pick up my daughter from school. I just made a whole string load of videos about the Royal Rumble 2024, which is coming up next Saturday. And at one point, I was even talking about Seth Rollins having a shot to be a name to win the Rumble. Even though he is the World Heavyweight Champion, him being, a name in WWE that has a past with Roman Reigns, it honestly would make a lot of sense for him to go after Roman Reigns. He could be, one of the guys that could finally topple him. I know that, he's had his shots, but I think, honestly, when it comes down to it, nobody knows Roman as good as Seth Rollins from all their years together as team members on The Shield. They're just two bad dudes. But on Monday Night Raw, in the match with Jinder Mahal, Seth Rollins was injured. He's going to be out a period of time. As of right now, I guess the plan is for him to address what's going on Monday Night Raw, and then he's actually not booked with WWE until mid-February. I guess they're just planning on sending him home, letting him rest, let him get ready, and then be available for WrestleMania. I don't think there's any question to the fact that Rollins will be available for WrestleMania. He wrestled at WrestleMania 33, I believe at the time he was injured, and he still pulled his way through it. You can remember the injury he had when he was World Heavyweight Champion. He blew out his knee, and that made him miss WrestleMania 32. And WWE made some sort of a documentary on the network about his time during his rehab. I believe there was something called like Rebuilding Seth Rollins, something close to that. And you could really tell that he was heartbroken to the fact that he was not able to be a part of WWE at AT&T Stadium. I don't really know what the match was that he was planning on having or anything like that, but no doubt I think he thought he was going to be in the title picture. That was his first run with the belt. It ended because of it was a match against Kane, I think, or something like that in Germany, if I remember right. The knee just blew up. So this isn't the same kind of an injury. Don't think that, Rollins' career is there. But, I mean, when you really think about it, this is WrestleMania 40. What we're talking about, the WrestleMania that he missed was WrestleMania 32. He first won the championship at WrestleMania 31. He wrestled in that tag match, the six-man at WrestleMania 30. The guy's been in the game for 10 years already. You got to be wondering how much longer he's going to go for it. There's two ways that you can really look at it as. You got to look at it like, all right, well, CM Punk versus Rollins seemed like the match that everybody wanted to see, come WrestleMania for Punk's first match. Definitely they had those hot words at each other. After Survivor Series, Rollins really did not want to see Punk show up. He said it in that WWE video game interview years back, basically saying that he was a problem. I don't think he called him an asshole, but he called him something close to that. But I really was picking Cody to win it. But now if Punk doesn't have a guaranteed shot at Rollins for WrestleMania, and they're trying to think maybe they go some other way in case Rollins isn't able to do it, maybe does this make Punk a higher chance to win the Rumble? I think that this definitely is something to think about. Rollins is not a guy who's going to take time off when he doesn't need it, but Rollins is going to go home. He's got a young kid to take care of. It's not like he's just going to be doing like nothing but, working out and getting ready to do gym stuff. When they tell him to put the sling on, when they tell him to, not be moving around and stuff like that, he's not really going to have a shot to do that if he's having to chase a kid around all day long. So, I think, things get a little bit different. Things get a little bit stickier, when you get in that situation. So, I don't know. All hopes that everything gets back on plan and it's still right where we thought we were going to be. But as of right now, I guess there's no plans of Rollins being in the Rumble. No plans of Rollins putting the title on the line of the Rumble. My only hope is that they don't strip him to go in a different direction. I think maybe Rollins versus Punk doesn't need that championship, and maybe that even makes it easier for them come WrestleMania, because the fact that Punk could beat Rollins. Maybe they didn't want to put a title on CM Punk. CM Punk had said that, when he was in AEW, he didn't want to be the champion. They made him the champion. And who knows, if that's true or not. But we'll have to see. So this changes my thoughts on WrestleMania a little bit. It's got me all thinking of it in the head. Maybe makes me want to pick Punk a little bit now. But I'm still sticking with Cody.